Okay. Hi guys, and welcome to part 2. So like I explained in the previous video, this is where I'm going to be showing you how I painted and added extra details such as the horn, the necklace, the bodysuit, those extra bits that I didn't get to in part 1 because it was too long. Won't be as long as part 1, but I hope you enjoy and let me know how you felt about it all. So we're back. As you can see here, I'm preparing some foam to be shaped. You can see like the pores shrink when you know, heat it with the heat gun. And I've just basically made myself a 3D model using paper, which I folded to know how exactly I wanted to fold and create the horns. It also gave me a rough scale of how big they would be and what size to, you know, it just makes it easier for reference. Whereas I spent quite a while trying to do it just off the bat and it just didn't end up working. So best thing to do is to make a reference, scale reference. And probably not the best way of doing it. I wouldn't recommend doing the horns like this again. I mean, even on my head they didn't look like how I wanted them to. They were kind of going outwards instead of behind my head. But I was kind of struggling last minute to figure out how exactly I wanted it on my head. I was originally gonna hot glue them to some hair clips so I could place them how I wanted. However, they weren't strong enough and it kept breaking, so I ended up just gluing it onto a headband. Bear in mind, the day literally before the Comic-Con, obviously this is my first cosplay, so I'm going to end up doing this like everyone else. I left so much to do for the last day. I literally had to finish the wings the last day, attach the horns to the headband. What else was I making? Something to do with the helmet, I think. A load of things. Oh, including the tail. So I didn't show the making of the tail as well because it was so rough. Like last second, my mum basically got some scrap material that I bought, some cotton. I dyed it the same time that I dyed the bodysuit at the end of the video, and it was just a mess. So we made this one. Now let's do the second part. We got our other bit here. This needs reheating. So now I'm just continuing to make the other part. I'm using the one that I already made for reference, and you can see I kind of cut an angle at the top so I could place the horn at the end in a correct position and give it leeway and room in sorts. So now I'm just showing you what I did. I basically got 3 stacks of 10mm foam, cut them into the same shape and glued them together and put them inside the horn, and then sanding the edges right there. There's a lot wrong with it, like I'm going over with detail now. I'm sanding out the top because that took me forever to do, and sanding out any details as well. As you can see here as well, I've basically just added bands around to add extra elements and sanded those, and now I'm adding the scratches and edges in. I will be going over it with the primer, the gesso primer, to fill any cracks and any seams as well, just to finish it off. So I actually had a lot of trouble with these thigh plates because I made 2 but I only ended up wearing 1 because I went over it with this paint here and it's the wrong colour, so I went over it a load of times with different colours. It made it look less authentic. It came out looking completely different to the one that I had preferred. I tried to remove the paint with boiling water, a cloth and some nail polish remover, but it just completely ruined it. I didn't have enough time to do it, so just bear in mind to test your paints before you use them straight away on the actual cosplay. So as you can see here, I've got the correct colour that I want on that on the leg. This is the calf section, and I'm just going over the edges with like metallic gold to make it look more authentic and more armoury in a sense. And then here I am also making an undergarment basically out of the scrap leather and Velcro. So I'm going to have this be like the under bracer that I put around my wrist first, and then I'm going to put Velcro on the outside of the leather to attach to the actual bracer, as the leather straps on the inside were not secure enough to keep it on my arm, and it just makes it look more authentic. So I put quite a lot of detail and attention into the gauntlets, in a sense. Like you can see I've got my reference on my phone from the armour from the game. I just wanted to add so much layers to the painting here because you'll be seeing it, like it's one of the things you'll be seeing the most as I'm reaching out to buy stuff at the con, etc. So I went over it with the first coat of the gold, which I had quite a lot of. I had a lot of the gold paint. Let that dry and then went over it with detailing. So you can see I'm now going over with the blue on the edges. And then I go over the edges with, not the edges, sorry, I go in the detail to make rust and like add tone and add dimensions by dry painting or like wet painting as well. Darker colours into the corners of the detailing. So I'll go over it with wet paint in the edges, and then I'll brush it off with my paper towel or a cloth to even it out and smudge it out, or I use a dry brush as well to do it as well. I can't remember which technique I used on this one, whether it was dry or wet, but you can do it either way, it just depends on what end result you want. I think I wanted it to look quite rough because it's been through a lot, it's armour, and to get the colour that I wanted I mixed the gold and the bronze. It was quite hard for me to find the right acrylic paints as well because a lot of the ones that I got were very liquidy and they weren't really giving me the results I wanted, so I ended up using these specific types of paints. I forgot the name of them, but they there you go, I'm using that technique now. They were so much better. I didn't need to use as many layers, and it was just immense. And also remember, before painting, I didn't record this, but I used a sealant primer in a spray can, and oh, I forgot what it's called. I'll put the link in the description for the name of it, but it basically put a few layers through the foam after you've heated it, just one more for it to be able to absorb it correctly, and you do it before you paint, and it allows the paint to stay on and basically stay in really good condition on the cosplay for a long amount of time. So although the chest plate was bigger, I was like the most excited to paint this one for some reason. It took me quite a while, but I don't know, it was just something satisfying seeing it all finally come together, especially painting it. It was mint. I tried to paint downwards so it looked more metally, so it'd have the strokes would come in my favour, as in it'd look like metallic in sorts. And it was just enjoying the process really, just painting over everything with the gold and then adding the detailing, so like any darker colours for shading, all the crevices, the blue colours for the detailing on the sides, and then everything else basically. time I went fucking recording. That whole time my camera wasn't recording. Why? So this bit was really complicated. I'm gonna have to talk really quick because there's not as much time on the video for me to explain. But basically, I tried to attach Velcro to a piece of like foam that I could glue onto these like stockings, so that I could keep the armour on my legs up on my leg because they weren't staying up. But then I ended up adding Velcro around the back so it would stay up better. But I ended up burning my leg, and it was just a whole messy process. Would not recommend following this part. Just use Velcro as straps around the back. Don't put it on the front like that. Just help to hold it up. And then I was just making sure that they would fit with the boot on, because that was the boot that I wanted to wear that day. I thought it kind of matched with the colours and the theme in a sense. Just put Velcro around the back, or you could even strap it, but don't do what I did with the stockings because they just ripped. And it was so fiddly, look at it. I was using hot glue gun, I was using this solvent, and I ended up burning my skin. Do not recommend. So as you can see, I'm back at it again, reinforcing all of that glue with more glue. The hot glue, trying it on. I mean, to be fair, it did help, but on the thighs especially, it just kept sliding down and sliding down. I was done. I was friggin' done. I'm not doing a thigh one again until I have better experience with it. I'm probably going to research into it more. But you know what, it was good for my first one, so...
About there.
Right, now what we're doing?
Now, let me just give it a second.
So I'm basically dyeing the bodysuit the colour that I wanted to use. I ended up using Dylan dye. I ended up dyeing the bodysuit as well as a load of fabric to make the tail. The tail fabric. That's all left over and saved. Like, never throw away anything because you can always use it. It was white before, and I got the bodysuit off of Shein because it was cheap and easy, and it looked quite nice. Could have worn it without, but you know. And so this is just us doing the process of dyeing the bodysuit. It was quite fun, to be honest with you. I was quite excited. Like, the whole experience got me excited. I was like, I'm finally living my cosplay dream. But yeah, I don't even care. Like, it's just fun making these videos as well. The whole thing's fun, so do what you want, kids. Also, not all clothing can be dyed, and you have to dye it in certain ways for this type of brand, so make sure you always read the packet and the labels on the clothes. So because I didn't have any footage, I wanted to talk about it quickly now. For the tail, basically how I created that was I had the dyed fabric that I mentioned earlier. My mum sewed it to the shape, like I drew the shape I wanted, she cut it and sewed it together, and we put old, what's it called? Old pillow fabric from the inside into the tail. And then I sew it onto elastic, which I turned into a belt with a clip, which I got from like Yorkshire trade store. And then I cut out on foam and painted the spikes and then the end of the tail, and basically used the solvent glue, the contact cement, and attached it to the fabric, and it's been literally not come off one bit. It has stayed on that whole time, and I basically wore it like a belt. And so for the wings, how I created them was I got really thick wire and bent them to the shape that I wanted the wings to be, but all on one wire as 2 wings so that they would attach. And I basically bent it down the middle so the wire would go down into the cardboard and then fabric wrapped part at the middle between the shoulder blades, which I'd then add straps to turn into like a backpack almost. And then I cut 10mm foam as the wire and the base onto the of like, you know, like the part of the wings that hasn't got like the flappy bits, just basically the hard part of the wings. Sanded it down, painted it, and then hot glued fabric as the part of the wings that catches the air and painted it with acrylic. And it was so last minute, but it turned out so good. I won't even lie, like I'm proud of them. And I just wore it as like a backpack, essentially. I literally just wore it as a backpack. It was so quick, but it turned out so good. That's basically how I made those. And pretty much the same for the horns on the top of my head. Like not the horns, but like the bits in the middle. They were literally just foam that I had sanded, painted, and then hot glued onto a hair clip and put on my head. So that's the end of today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm not sure what I'll be posting next, but I'll make sure to try and upload weekly from now on. I will be uploading artwork on my Instagram, not my personal one, my Ambrosia Instagram. Artwork, concepts for the cosplays, just things in general that I'm doing that are artsy. I'm also working on Monster High doll art that I'm going to be posting on there as well. And I'll be adding quizzes and different polls for you guys to help me pick what to do for my next cosplay and different projects. So stay tuned on there, and I hope to see you soon, so have a good weekend.